All right, hey everyone. Let me know if you can hear me, if the audio's working well, the stream's laggy or weird or anything. You know all the good stuff. Make sure everything's working. Just get a type out. Nice. One time says, audio's good, stream is good, life is good. Well, I'm glad that we can count on all those things together. I will keep monitoring, of course, all the super chat stuff. I just didn't um, put a little overlay on this one this time. We're testing out the live stream ghetto style to begin with, so bear with that. Part of it is just I didn't want to get too comfortable with a nice solo stream setup right now because in not next week, but the one after that, I'm gonna try to go back to like full on, rundown as it were. But I want to like have an overhauled version. So rather than trying to make this one, get all the little overlays and little things and bells and whistles, I'll figure it out for a thing that I'm going to use for like one time. Rather than that, I'm just going to put all my effort into making something a little bit better, nicer, etc. For future shows, and yeah, like incorporate all like the NFT stuff and everything. And so yeah, that's gonna be quite exciting. Fun stuff. I'm gonna just keep on filling this thing with dead air for a little while until Michael Viloff, also known as the Agnew Pickens, says, "Yo, hi Agnew, how's it going?" It's gonna close this one. Ooh, there's a playback problem. Is Odysee still working for you guys? I just got a little error on my end, just like looking at it. I could pop this chat out too. Okay, awesome. Just make sure I'm keeping with both chats. But yeah, it's been a hell of a week, really. It seems that with these crypto bear market type cycles, oftentimes it seems like things get like really quiet. Like that's like the biggest difference between like the bull and the bear type stuff is that the cycles tend to get like it's almost as if as soon as the price starts going down, people stop doing things, which is absolutely not true. It's just that one thing for sure though, I am a little bit I am kind of looking forward to with the cycles. They go up and down, and during the up it's all breaking new thing built, breaking price higher, breaking this invests in that, breaking that invests in this, blah blah blah. It's like all this up stuff, and then when the price starts going down, it's just like bankruptcy, hack, theft, bankruptcy, like all the the other side of the hopium starts to impact, right? Yeah, so it's kind of funny because every story has two sides. Nothing's perfect, and when you start to see, for example, you start to see projects fail, it's the reality of all the success that we saw before, right? It's like, well, there was a dark side of things, and we just didn't get to experience that yet. And so it's kind of good to have like both as context. So that's one thing I noticed. Most projects, there are some bear market builders who just keep on doing new and cool things, but mostly the bear markets are a great time to just see stuff fall apart a little bit, And so I guess that's kind of where we're at. There's a lot of stuff like that. Let me see. How long have we been going? 5 minutes. I'll give it another minute maybe, and then we'll jump right into the stuff. Quick reminder: you can always go to cointr.ee/the desert links and send a little donation with a message, and then that will get read out. I mean, you can jump on the live chats too and just like say stuff, but you know, there's no guarantee I'll like you enough to say anything, unless you're one time. I like one time. Yeah, so it is what it is. All right, last little check of the live chats before we get going. Agnew says the volume's a little low, so I'm gonna go quickly fix that a little bit, and then we can get right into the good stuff. All right, so that should be a little bit better. Ooh, a little loud. All right, let's start with number one. Okay, I'm sure you've kind of seen this one. Nomad announces $19 million bounty for lost funds from the recent hack. Nomad announced it's going to offer up to a 10% bounty to return funds stolen from a recent hack on the Nomad bridge on August 2nd. So yeah, August 2nd, this Ethereum bridge, Nomad, suffered a giant hack and lost, around $200 million. As it just, I think it's like one of the biggest hacks in, DeFi history, as it were. And the funny thing about it is, from my, if my memory serves correctly, not too long before that, Nomad had done they were tweeting something about like, oh, security is so paramount in crypto. We take it and our audit's super serious and all this kind of stuff. And so then like, it was just like 2 days later or something like that. It was like July 29th or something like that. I think they did it. So maybe 4 days later. And then all of a sudden they were like the largest breach in history, basically. And it's like, oh no. But yeah, just another reminder of how early we are and to be careful where you keep all your money, because stuff like this kind of tends to happen. And it is kind of crazy that offering a $19 million bounty is like, it's worth it for them, because that means that what they're getting back or what they lost, like losing $20 million is like it's a favorable outcome for them, right? That's them getting off easy because they were about to lose 200 million or already have, but whatever, it is what it is. And so, yikes. Like, I really think that this is going to be the adoption, the early majority adoption cycle kind of narrative we're going to see. Because at first it's like, well, there's Bitcoin, what's it going to do? And then people do very slight variations on Bitcoin. Then they start building entirely new things that, structure is completely different, make it proof of stake, do like smart contracts, do all kinds of different things, and, testing and see what kind of works. And now we've got to the stage where there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with crypto, and it works. But you just don't have the time and the users to make sure that this is actually going to work correctly long term. And so when we start to have a serious amount of users, not like a couple of crypto fans and speculators, when you have like serious amounts of users, then we're going to start to see everything break. And I think maybe this is a little bit of a pivot, but whatever, I ramble about anything. Obviously, if you pay attention to on-chain scaling coins, a lot of them have hit, I wouldn't say hit a limit, but a lot of them have hit troubles over a certain amount, a certain number of things, like congestion issues. And even BSV, which is like, all they care about is running their 1 Tera node, whatever the hell thing, and just processing all transactions through that and gigablocks and all this kind of stuff. Even they've gone through quite a few serious problems on the road to figuring that kind of stuff out. And so the other thing is, even one of the more carefully done, more respectably done projects, Zcash, as far as I know, I haven't been closely following the situation, but they experienced some sort of a scaling issue based on their private transactions, where basically, when using shielded transactions, there's something like the number of potential outputs for a single transaction was not capped. So someone was spamming the network where a single transaction had a million different outputs. And because of the way their late client, i.e., like mobile wallet type thing, works, they were having some problems dealing with that. And so, as far as I know, I hate to be too specific because I can't really remember exactly where we're at. But as far as I know, you can't really send and receive private Zcash transactions on mobile devices right now, or it's difficult. It's hard to get through. It's a big usability problem, and they're still not quite figure out how they're going to deal with that. So there's a few different things, but point being, like, as of like a couple months ago, it's like, oh well, Zcash managed to have cheap, fast, and efficient, extremely private transactions on mobile devices without trusting a node like something like Monero would do. And it's like, oh, it's working. But then as soon as you get that one exploit from like a certain level of usage, a certain type of usage that you didn't maybe count on, and then all of a sudden, you're just dealing with some bad stuff. And so I think that we're going to find a lot of robust blockchain projects are going to start to shake and break in the coming 4 or so years. Whether it's Lightning Network being tested, where all of a sudden you can't handle the scale of and size of transactions without deploying significant amounts of capital and raising fees to the roof or something like that, right? Or whether it's, just any old blockchain that just can't properly scale, or whether it's every single project is going to get attacked in some way, like a 51% attack. Like, how the hell is any Bitcoin fork, like, we're not talking about something like, like Zcash or something. We're talking about something like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, with the same hashing algorithm. How isn't it under constant attack right now? Or how has it never been attacked? I mean, how has modern day Bitcoin never been attacked or attempted to be attacked? I think we're going to start seeing some stuff like that. It's going to get gnarly. And I guess the good part of that is that we're going to find out what works. We kind of know a lot of things that works, but there's a lot we don't know. But more importantly, people just throw money like, oh, Solana, I don't care if it goes down a million times. Foreshadowing, by the way. I don't care if it goes down a million times. I'm just going to keep on throwing money into it because it's exciting and they're building a store in New York City and all this kind of stuff. But then it just break, hack, hack, break, hack. And eventually, if you're relying on customers for your revenue, that's not going to work. When you're relying on investors and speculators for your revenue, you have a little bit more leeway there. So that's kind of the way it is. All right, let's move on to the next one here. So, Slope wallets blamed for Solana-based wallet attack. Web3 wallet provider Slope has been connected to the recent hack of Solana-based wallets, and experts find private keys on Slope servers still puzzled over access. So blockchain auditing firms are still trying to figure out how hackers gained access to about 8,000 private keys used to drain Solana-based wallets. Investigations are still ongoing, blah, blah, blah. They managed to steal around 5 million worth of Solana and SPL tokens on the 3rd of August. Wow, two big hacks right next to each other. Isn't that great? So the working theory is that an attacker somehow exfiltrated these logs and were able to use this to compromise their users. There's still an ongoing investigation, blah, 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 blah. They don't really know how, but there's basically rumors, or there's basically suspicions of private keys for these wallets. And, for everyone watching this should know what a private key is, but if you don't, just literally the access to move funds. They got basically broadcast from like the client, like the local device, to the servers. They got communicating in between them in like a plain text format. That was like a rumor, but however is they basically got leaked in logs, and then someone just found the logs and then managed to just steal a whole bunch of money. And I want to it's just the latest in the series of like Solana things. And I gotta say, before some crazy fanboy bites my head off for saying this, no, the Solana network was not hacked this time. It's a wallet that supports Solana that got hacked. And that's very different from like saying, oh, Bitcoin got hacked because some hardware wallet company, this and that, and all that are saying. It's like, yeah, I get it, it's not the same. Now, however, I want to give a shout out to Justin Bonds and his Twitter threads. He's a big ETH guy. He does a lot of Twitter threads. One of these ones recently was on Solana, or many of them have been on Solana, and I don't pay as close attention as he does, but it's clear that his opinion is that it's not just there's structural problems with the project, but he seems to believe that the development team and the culture surrounding the ecosystem is like dishonest and fraudulent and things like that. And so I guess that would sort of extend to a major wallet provider, right? To where if the core development team doesn't really, isn't really in the business of building good faith technology and being honest about their representations about what it can and can't do or what stage they're at or whatever. It seems to be just like a dishonest pump project a little bit, regrettably. If all that's true, then that extends certainly to other like third-party applications and companies. Even if there's different people behind them necessarily, it's still just the general culture. It attracts a whole lot of people. And I do remember back in the day, there was a very strong, I guess, criminal contingent, so to speak, to the Monero community, where it was heavily marketed to criminals and stuff like that. I'm not just saying, conscientious objectors or whatever. I'm saying like, people doing things that society would consider, even if you're a complete, anarchist, you'd still believe to be wrong. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on, a lot of people in there. Still never going to forget when they tried to put a hit out on me because I wrote some article for Cointelegraph, but that was like the old community. And a lot of that, I would say, got kind of attracted by the figurehead, Fluffy Pony, who I don't remember exactly the details of the case today, but I know he was extradited to South Africa in order to, face trial for alleged like embezzlement and theft of a whole bunch of money from back in the day. And so I don't know if that's true or not. Seems like him to do that kind of stuff. I don't know what the status is right now, but point being, when he was the single figurehead of Monero, you had a lot of that stuff going on. In the post Fluffy days, so to speak, I've noticed a lot more kind of regular folks. It used to be just like, it used to be a very much of a different community. Today, it's just people. Like, I run into Monero fans and they, or recent ones, right? Last few years, I would say. And they just seem to be regular people. They seem to like not be all shitty at me, for lack of a better way of saying it, for like using different projects or having some, even though I use Monero as well, but I'm just saying for having a diversity of opinion and approaches, and seem to just be like overall good people, or, much higher percentage of being good people. And so I think that, the whole ethos of Solana is probably not quality first and not build slowly, So it doesn't surprise me that, one of their major wallets managed to have a huge issue with it, and that ended up, losing a whole bunch of money. But that's the thing is, one thing I realized is, because I've been involved with crypto for a long time, I've been involved in promoting certain projects or offering certain services of this, that, all that kind of stuff, or just being part of a fan of a community. And then so I was like, oh, well, look at those guys. They have so much money. They can do whatever. Look at us. We can't afford Super Bowl ads. If only we had their money, blah, blah, blah. And then I first started to feel like the staggering size of a budget with EOS. And when EOS was around, still is, I guess, but they raised a ton of money They paid, I believe, hundreds of millions to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, in a fine, and just didn't care because they just had their ICO, made a ton of money, and they were just still doing stuff. They paid something like 20 million for a website like the voice.com, which didn't end up going anywhere really. Like, they were throwing money around like nothing. And it's just like, well, how can we compete on that level? Well, one thing I've learned is that venture capital in staggering amounts is shockingly easy to burn through. Like, a great example of this, of course, is the government, right? They have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. They just have all the money they need, and they still manage to just blow it all away and just not have enough for basic things. So it's kind of a cautionary tale. Like, if you build fast and make shaky promises in order to power like a revolution or something, in order to seemingly like power a revolution of your stuff, if you do that, it's just it's easy to lose the money just as quickly as you get it. And so with Solana burning through stuff the way that they are, I mean, I can't really imagine them having like all that money. Like, eventually the investor attention span dries up, and then everyone speculates on a different thing. And if they're used to dealing with these giant amounts of budgets and just stuff doesn't really work or whatever, and just on, then it's going to be especially hard of a crash, I believe. And yeah, so obviously that was just about this the Slope wallet, but it was, I believe, just the last time I talked to you guys, it was like, or 2 weeks ago, like, so the Solana network was down. The network itself was down for like whatever reason. And it's like, oh no, again, it's been down like 7 or 8 times. A big disaster. And, I hope that they can get stuff fixed there, but I'm not super optimistic. All right, here we go. Let's close these. Let's hit on this one. Former Coinbase manager at heart of insider trading scandal. Please not guilty in federal court. Yeah, so there was a manager in Coinbase who basically got fired by Coinbase for alleged insider trading, and he then at some point got charged, and now he's in court and stuff for supposedly insider trading. And so insider trading, of course, is when you, as an insider, someone with intimate knowledge of the company or whatever, make trading decisions before the rest of the public is able and willing to do that or whatever. And so it's criminal offense. Let me just get this out of the way. I don't think insider trading is a crime or should be a crime. I don't think it's necessarily good, or it's associated with a lot of shady activity. But literally, why do you want to trade based on just betting? Like, don't you want to trade on the maximum amount of experience possible, of information possible? So, like, if you know that a company is going to, hire a new firecracker of a CEO who has a great track record of turning things around, making things revenue positive, you might just invest all the way in there. But like, the investment is the getting of the information and things like that. And so, yeah, it just, I don't think it should be a crime. Of course, if you are deceiving people. And so, well, while not a crime, I do think there's some issues. So Coinbase, they're like the giant in the US. They are kind of like the standard, so to speak, heavily regulated. There's the by the book kind of stuff, but they've done a bunch of sketchy things in the past. I don't want to speculate, do too much speculation as fact, as it were. But I remember when Litecoin was on its way to the dustbin of history, and Charlie Lee was a director of engineering at Coinbase, and he made some tweet, hey, what do you think about having Litecoin on, blah, blah, blah. Like, he just like tweeted at his own company, worked for it really quickly. Litecoin got added and then just took off into this major hype cycle. And it still hasn't come down off of that. And I have to say, it kind of worked. Litecoin got into and on almost every single exchange out there, and kind of etched itself into like the permanent stable of like the of top coins because of this, and because of this, and like following up hype trains and stuff like that. And so it's obviously a huge conflict of interest, and a huge ethical breach, right? To add the coin that your guy founded when it didn't make any sense. And then there have been a whole bunch of other coins added in the future after that. And I guess the allegations are that a lot of trading was happening by these insiders without the actual, without everyone knowing it was going to be added or not. And it used to be that the Coinbase listing was like the, what do they call it? Like the kiss of anointing or something like that. Where if you had a token and you managed to get listed on Coinbase, you'd instantly have like a giant pump. They just pump your coin, because now it's like you're on like the largest and most successful exchange platform out there, and like, and so I'm sure a lot of people have insider traded on this. As soon as they get kind of hints of news or whatever, I'm sure a lot of people have done this. And I don't know if the individual who's being prosecuted did it, but I know tons of people probably have. And then there was a lot of like weird, trading is disabled during some stuff. I remember specifically with Bitcoin Cash, there was something like that it was added, but you weren't able to trade it. And then the price wildly fluctuated during a period of time when people wanted access to buy or sell, and they didn't have it. And so there's just a bunch of sketchy kind of stuff with that. I do think that a good way to avoid insider trading is through proper DeFi, where you basically, if a new asset is added or not, you get to see, with an open source code base, you get to see this kind of stuff start to happen. So like, for example, today I was on a Twitter Spaces thing with Thorchain, talking about the Dash community and the integration of Dash into Thorchain, which has been underway for a freaking year, over a year, where between developers, coding up the integration, between going back and forth with stuff, and like, but it's been visible for a year that something is moving towards this eventuality. It's not just like there's backroom deals that integrate this and it's all closed source and they just say, oh, okay. And they're like, hey, guess what? We're adding Dash. And then all of a sudden, all the insiders who bought cheap Dash that now pumps just get to dump on it or whatever. Like, no, it's not nearly as easy with like proper DeFi. And of course, even in decentralized protocols, there's usually people that make decisions on this kind of thing. It's not like there's no risk at all of like things not going well, of people having backroom deals and buying up ahead of time. But it really minimizes the vector, the insider trading attack vector, as it were. So yeah, I think we're always going to have that kind of problem as far as people exist, as far as they trade, as far as people have insider trading knowledge. I would decriminalize insider trading and let the market sort out how to get everyone insider knowledge on insider trading, right? So yeah, anyway, that's kind of my take on this. I'll switch the order from what I was going to do. Just very briefly, because we're talking about Coinbase. Coinbase partners with BlackRock to create new access point for institutional crypto investing. So basically, Coinbase is trying to get to the very apexes of traditional finance as far as integrations and stuff. And the whole institutions is coming thing. I remember that was a meme from like the 2017 bull run and stuff, and then the subsequent bear market, and then like institutions have come, and I don't know, I'm not quite, it needs to happen, right? People need to get involved. You need big players in any game, right? But I kind of worry that like it should be like principled small holder and user first / forward, and then the rest kind of get in. Like, I still think that like crypto for the most part has been like what the little guy can invest in and trade. and then it's now just what the big guys want to do, and now it's it's kind of moving into a less interesting direction that way. But my part of that is not even that. I want to be at the edges where people just use the raw stuff and they're not just like trading so much, they're just using it to live free and have better lives and avoid censorship and all this kind of good stuff. And then at some point, if the infrastructure behind all this gets you get a lot of institutional investment in all that kind of stuff, okay, that's great. They kind of come along for the ride. Of course you need that, but I do want it to be like a user forward, a freedom open source forward technology and industry. And so I kind of hope we kind of stick to that. And anyway, finally, this I thought was kind of interesting. Worthless JPEGs. Redditor turns NFT criticism into NFTs. One Reddit user collected quotes from NFT haters on the internet and famous skeptics like Warren Buffett, Peter Schiff, and Dan Olson, and he turned them into an NFT collection called, Worthless JPEGs. So, like, for example, this one is just a right-click copy. Am I a millionaire? Like, they just turn that into NFT. I think this is kind of funny. So, it's like, yo, dog, I heard you like worthless JPEG. So I'm going to create a worthless JPEG of you saying a worthless JPEG so you can worthless JPEG while you, whatever. The funny thing about that stuff is, the funny stuff about the NFT stuff is, I am a fan and proponent of NFTs now after I kind of understood what they are, what they're for, and the capacity for them is. But like, I'm an NFT utilitarian maximalist. I do not give a crap about like, shiny, share it, trade it, or maybe it's kind of fun, but I'm not it's not worth pushing a space forward based on just that, right? And so when people say it's just a JPEG or whatever, it's the most like outdated boomer kind of thing you could say. Like, it's not true. It's like, you literally do not understand the whole technology of what it can do. However, I am still critical of worthless JPEG NFTs that just have a little bit of a digital framework around a JPEG. And the JPEG is hosted on OpenSea or wherever else that you can just take offline. Then it's just a broken link of a thing. And it does nothing and represents nothing. And it's just like, but there's only one of these like containers and you can trade. I don't care. It's kind of a worthless JPEG with extra steps, to borrow a Rick and Morty reference, of course. But it's kind of funny to be like mocking, worthless JPEGs by like making an NFT series out of it. But I would have done something that has like actual utility, that like you mock people calling them worthless JPEGs by turning their words into something useful and valuable. Not just valuable, but like useful and valuable, like real value, not just have money behind it. The irony, I guess, in all this is mocking useless JPEGs by making useless JPEGs, kind of. It's just like you're mocking that they're calling them useless JPEGs, but you're making useless JPEG version of that. So it's kind of like, by mocking your critics, you're kind of validating them in a certain way, right? Although, I'm not going to hate on anyone's hustle. Sell them. If you can sell them, you get anyone to buy them and trade them, go for it. Maybe there's going to be a DAO along the way. Maybe you take all the, you issue governance tokens to everyone who has one of these useless JPEGs, and that all works for some like solving cancer kind of charity, or who knows. We'll see where it goes from there, but it's probably just useless JPEGs, which I'm not in the business of. In not too long, right? I'm going to be issuing some NFTs for this channel. Probably not next week, but the one after that, you're going to have, you're going to have the ability to use NFTs to interact with the channel and stuff. It's going to be really cool. That's not a useless JPEG though. I might create one useless JPEG, but that's a little bit of a secret though. Anyway, let me hit up some of these live chat thingies. First, let me check Cointree to make sure. One reason, by the way, I have decided to go into the NFT stuff is because the Cointree super chat thing is just too clunky. It's just like, it's not responsive. It takes too long. It's like, you know, it's just an annoying way of interacting with like a live chat. So I'd rather just like have someone be a permanent super chat member, or have an integrated solution or whatever, so people just like jump in, leave a super chat, and then there you go. And yeah, so the NFT is kind of a solution to that. So anyway, let me hit up YouTube. Seems like Odysee has much more activity actually, but good old Agnew Pickens also mentioned, money laundering. Same thing as art though, right? Because art is valuable for objectively subjective reasons, right? People think it looks nice. That's literally the entire purpose for art. They like it, and that's it. I mean, that's the purpose for anything in the world, but like some things have a practical use case towards like feeding yourself or travel or whatever. But like any entertainment thing, it's just, I like it. But people have used art for millennia to launder money, I buy this artwork, and then, just a way to like hide, to pretend to be like an art collector, but you're actually paying off a politician or turning stolen money into something else, and like all that kind of stuff. So that is unfortunately a practical use case, is money laundering. And I don't believe in the concept of money laundering from a criminal perspective. I don't think what you do with your money, how you hide where it goes, is a crime in any way, shape, or form. I think it's I do think though it's an activity. Like if you do something that is a crime, like stealing, that is always going to be a crime. You steal, and then you launder that to keep people off your trail. I mean, it isn't not launder. It is, of course, laundering, right? It is a thing to launder, to make sure that people can't, trace the money. It's just that like that's not a problem. It's the fact that you're hiding your actual crime is the problem. But even in a world with no government or whatever, I do think that money laundering is always going to be a valid use case or invalid use case. Sometimes people just want to, like, people might want to appear like their company is doing stuff that it isn't. So then they go buy up a bunch of things, hire a bunch of stuff. And so when all their books are transparent, people like financially audit them. They see them doing all this like busy work. Oh my gosh, they're doing so much stuff. It just like, so for example, like the Chinese companies that used to hire Westerners to just sit in an office and pretend to be their employee, because like, look, we're progressive, we hire Westerners or whatever, we're successful. Like that's a laundering kind of thing. I think that'll always be a thing. And so Agnew also says that a useless Ethereum token was a nice hustle back in 2017, 2018. Yes, the ICO boom was like useless token hustle, and CryptoKitties were around there too. I guess CryptoKitties could be classified as an NFT, right? You have a little collectible, and you can change them. You can, you can kind of modify them, and so people don't realize NFTs have been around for a long time. Larger MNOs, larger master nodes, he says, as far as Dash, I'm sure will mix some of their master nodes every once in a while. It's a privacy thing. It's more privacy. I would call it more just like privacy than laundering. It's more like I don't want people to be tracking me, rather than I want to explicitly lie about what the money's for, which is a little bit of a different thing. It's like not disclosing and then fabricating lies about it are slightly different. All right, let's hit the Odysee chat here real quick. Obviously, one time, I don't know if I mentioned it, he said the crypto equals the school of hard knocks. Great Wolf mentioned, don't know about everyone else, but I don't want BlackRock touching and tainting the crypto space. They already own everything else. Yes, I agree. I don't want the government doing this stuff either. Yet here they are owning crypto because they seized stuff or whatever else. Or I don't like. At some point, you have to let everyone in. If it's a global permissionless financial network, everyone has to be able to use it. And if they can, they will. Okay? It is what it is. Where that becomes a problem is when you have it where you become afraid of the influence of them owning that. Like if it's already really well distributed and the people, the real people have enough of a token supply, or they have enough access to this financial system, however it ends up working out. However that works out, if you're already there, you don't care that the government kind of scoots in a little bit, or BlackRock buys some of it and pumps people's bags a little bit, or like you don't really care if they're part of it. You just care that they're running it and that they're too big of a part of it. And so that's not something you can do by trying to hope that people get excluded. That's something you got to do by getting people involved over and over and over. So, and finally, I got to wrap it up after this, but one time asked a question, which is a very, very, I won't say very, very, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's a longer kind of an answer than I'll be able to give right here. But where does an NFT have utility, have useful utility, which, utility, that an ordinary centralized database doesn't work better for? So there's a lot of things. So first off, if you care about a record, a digital record, so it's literally just a digital record. It's like an immutable digital record is what crypto and NFTs are, right? Although crypto is fungible, NFTs are non-fungible. The reason why you'd want that in terms of finance for crypto is it's really important. Your value, your store of value, your transmission of value, your money, your everything is really important that no one can control, stop, or edit that. And so as far as other forms of records, it's kind of the same thing. I think that where we're going to see the most absolute kind of thing is where we start seeing what are now government records being transmitted into a decentralized ledger, to where now, if you want to sell a property, you want to transfer title to someone, you can like write on a piece of paper, whatever, do some legal thing, and then the government does that. But then in some cases, the government might try to seize your assets or say you don't own this, or illegally transferred or whatever. And if you want control over that, that's where it becomes super valuable. But even the point that is valid, not 100%, but still it's worth mentioning, is if you sell little commemorative NFTs at Starbucks that get you like a free latte every month, that you can do this. You could do that with a centralized database. You can do it with a decentralized database. And the value proposition for a decentralized database is not as dramatically different as it would be for example, money or a property registry. So that's something that's a little bit closer. It's not quite as much of a radical thing. And so, for example, if you sell a subscription, right, like a Patreon membership, or you sell a membership, and you sell an immutable token. So first off, if you have to, as let's just say content creator, I'm just going to speak from my own personal experience, right? If I was going to sell a membership, I would have to interact with a third party to do that. So let's just take the example of YouTube, right? Because YouTube has like premium memberships and super chats and all this kind of stuff built in. It's not just the video. But so it's me, there's YouTube, and then there's the end user, the subscriber. I have to contract with YouTube to provide these services for me, and they take like a giant cut of like super chats and things like that and memberships. And so first off, cutting out the middleman, turning the middleman into a decentralized network is a big cost savings thing, usually. The other thing is, what if I want to sell a membership to a banned YouTube member? You just can't. But if I decide who I want to sell an NFT to, that's completely different. The other thing is, what happens if I get canceled off of YouTube at some point? I can still keep on creating content on all my channels, but then my entire subscriber base, I was leveraging a centralized network to keep track of that. And instead, if it's like, well, everyone who bought a subscription on YouTube, I don't have to be, oh, sorry guys, I got canceled off YouTube. Go watch me on Odysee now. Were you a super member? Were you a subscriber? I don't know. You don't have to try take people's word for it, figure it out. And you don't have to there's no refunds or whatever. They already bought a subscription. I don't know if YouTube takes that back. I don't know if I would lose the revenue from that. It's whatever. So all that stuff goes away. Whereas if I just sold them an NFT instead, they have the NFT. I cancel it off of whatever. I can just say, oh, come here. And then you still have your NFTs, right? And you're on board now. You can just keep on using stuff. And the other thing is I can't like control who has it or doesn't have it. And that's kind of, I don't want to manage members really. I just want to say, if you have the NFT, you can watch and you can do super chats and stuff, right? You're in. And then if you're done, now I'm like, hey, I'm not a subscriber anymore. I'm going to cancel my thing. Or like, I haven't seen that guy in a while. Just like, say like Agnew gets tired of me and he's like, you know what? I enjoyed, shit posting in his chat for, a few years or like 6 months, let's just say, but like I'm kind of done. I'm kind of going to want to sell my membership. And rather than, it's just clunky to sell a membership on a centralized platform, especially if it's tied to your identity and things like that, or your pseudonymity, right? But then if you have the actual NFT, you just sell it. All right, there you go. You take it instead. And so then the same pool of memberships can be constantly sold all over the place and stuff. And so that's just some of the cool stuff. There's an endless list of these kinds of things, and I'm really excited to get deeper into this whole thing. And the thing is, NFTs are today probably where Bitcoin was like 2012 or something, 2013, to where it's like really rough early days, but there's some stuff you could do with it still. It's not like crypto is today where you can integration all these payment processors and protocols and things like that. It's not like that kind of stuff. But you're starting to see some flashes of cool stuff you can do with it. And I've already experimented with some of those stuff. I've got that figured out. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, hopefully next live stream I'll have it available. I'll actually be able to start selling the NFTs so that you can use them on the big one. Well, thanks everyone for watching. This was great. They were fixing the internet outside, so I got my internet. Apparently, it was like a faulty cable, underground wire from into the house that was the problem, and they fixed that by putting a temporary above ground cable to fix it. And so since then, I've not had issues. Fingers crossed. Just when I was about to start the podcast, right now, as my luck would have it, they came to install the underground version and then take off the above ground. There would have been disruptions. I had to tell them, don't disrupt this, please. I'm finally doing a live show. What the hell? And so they said, all right, well, we'll have someone else come pick up the above ground cable later and like make the switch over. But anyway, yeah, it's working. So hopefully next time I'll be able to have some NFTs information stuff on NFTs to sell to do this kind of stuff. And I'm also giving them away, as I'm sure you saw in the last couple of rundowns. I'm giving a one that you can't buy to people who jump on the show. And so that's going to be all cool. Good way to get into my Discord server, which I made. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I am planning a departure from my usual content for the middle of next week. Instead of like a long form thing, make a little bit more of like a short film style thing. And that's, as an editor, it's much more challenging to make, even though it's much shorter. It's so easy to just come. I don't want to I shouldn't downplay it that much. It's relatively easy now that I've built up the knowledge and expertise or whatever to just show up and talk and just, it's recorded. There you go. It's much harder to be like taking stock footage, splitting them together with transitions and music and overlay and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot harder to do that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm going to do that, and whole channel relaunch definitely by the end of the month. So that's going to be really fun. And then it's just off to the races, as they say. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. This was a good time. It's a little hot in here because I keep the door closed so the noise stays out, but the air conditioner isn't getting any. So if I'm a little shiny,